3 months ago, I challenged myself to follow the rules and regulations of the World War II clothing rationing scheme for an entire year. And I wanted to do this to not only reset my buying habits, my making habits, but also as a sort of fun little experiment. And I made a video about my plans for the year, and I talked more about how the clothing rationing scheme worked during World War II. And it turns out I missed out a couple of really vital pieces of information, so I thought I would not only give you a little update on where I am and how I'm doing, but I would answer a few of the more important questions I left out. So by far the most frequently asked question I got, and a massively crucial bit of information I missed, was how many coupons do you get? So the World War II clothing rationing scheme worked on this basis whereby each type of clothing was allocated a certain number of coupons, and each individual was allocated a number of coupons they could spend for the year. So in 1941, when the scheme was introduced, that was 66 coupons, but it did gradually reduce as the war got on and rationing got more intense. So I kind of deliberately didn't say how many I was going to give myself for the year, because at that point I hadn't really decided. I think I am going to go with the original 66 coupons for a year, and the logic behind that 66 number was that that would be enough coupons to buy an entire new outfit from head to toe for the year. So I looked at some numbers, and for example, if you wanted a lined wool coat, a jacket, a waistcoat, a pair of trousers, so a three-piece suit, a shirt, a pair of socks, shoes, underpants, that would come to about 61 coupons, depending on what type of material they're made of. And then you would have 5 coupons left over, which could be a tie, scarves, handkerchiefs, those sorts of things. In 1941, and you've got 66 coupons, that's what you can get. But as the war went on, for example, in 1945, there were 8 months where you only got 24 coupons. That three-piece suit cost 26 coupons, so you couldn't buy a three-piece suit in 1945. And I did wonder whether to make this challenge harder and more historically accurate, whether I should, over the next few years, gradually cut the number of coupons I give myself to replicate the experience of people in the past. But I don't think I want to do that. I don't think there's any benefit for me to deliberately deprive myself of the things I need for the sake of a living history experiment. That's not what this is about. What I want to do is reset my understanding of what is an acceptable and normal level of consumption, because we are constantly bombarded by these marketing messages to buy more and to own more, and it's gotten absolutely obscene, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm the only person that feels like this, to the extent that we have seen a trend for underconsumption core online. But I wouldn't argue that that is underconsumption. I would say that is normal consumption. But then our understanding of normal is so warped. Is it really normal? I don't know. So for me, that's the point of this challenge, is to try and find a new baseline of what is an acceptable level of consumption. So that's a long way of saying I'm giving myself 66 coupons a year. I finally decided that's what I want to do. A lot of people ask what they should do. Honestly, it depends on your situation. I am very lucky in that I know how to make my own clothes. I could make basically everything that I need, and I already have a big fabric and yarn stash, so that's not going to be the end of the world for me. You might find you need more. You might find 66 coupons harder than I would, for example. But also bear in mind that the scheme does have caveats built in. So if you are about to go through some big life changes, maybe you're expecting children, maybe you're transitioning, whatever it is, and you're going to need to buy a lot more new clothes, maybe factor that in so that you don't set yourself up to fail. On that note, another question I got was, how long do the coupons last? And yes, they reset every year. So it seems that the coupons were issued. You were issued literally a coupon book like this, and it had paper coupons in. And so this was your book. This one you can see is for 1947 to 48. So at the end of the year, you got a new one of these with your new coupons for the year. And it's usually at that time that they dropped the allocation for the year. So in 1941, you got 66 coupons, and they lasted for a year until 1942. But then going forward, for the 1942 book, there was only 48. might have been 46. 48 coupons in the new book you were issued. A couple of other suggestions people made is that maybe we should tweak the system to reflect our current environmental challenges. So the coupon allocation for each item in the 1940s was based on what people wore in the 1940s, but also what the army needed. So things that are made out of wool are more heavily rationed because army uniforms were made out of wool. For me, in my life, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to buy a woolen dress. I don't even know where I could find one. And also, in terms of environmental impact, synthetic fibres are probably much higher up in terms of concerns in that they're made of petrochemicals, they're made of fossil fuels, they're incredibly toxic to the environment, you've got the issues of microplastics, the list goes on. So should those be more heavily rationed for their bigger environmental impact than something like wool? For me, I have tried not to buy any synthetic fibres for years as it is, so I don't think that's going to be an adjustment I make in my personal challenge because I'm not going to buy polyester clothing anyway. What I will say is that knitting yarn was only rationed if it was more than 10% wool. So anything under that, you didn't require coupons for. However, in the 1940s, that meant basically everything on the market was rationed. Now, we have so much more variety of fibre types, including acrylic. So, I could buy unlimited acrylic yarn because it wouldn't cost any coupons, but I don't want to do that because this is about environmental impact, and acrylic, while it has its benefits, is a microplastic and is made of fossil fuels. Similarly, I could buy 100% cotton yarn, I could buy hemp, linen and all those things that you can now get knitting yarn made from, but I don't think I want to do that. I think for me, regardless of fibre content, it's about reducing my stash, buying less, so I'm counting all yarn, no matter what the fibre content, as requiring coupons. Another point I would like to make that really, I was gobsmacked, was the amount of climate change deniers in the comment section. I really couldn't believe it. And there's a part of me that's like, I'm not wasting my energy. These people are obviously a lost cause. If you are so incapable of understanding the facts, of analysing data, if you are so lacking in those skills, which may not be your fault, fine, there's nothing I can say that is going to change your mind. So, okay, I just have to accept that. But for me, what's worse than all of that was the apathy. It was the people saying, well, individual actions don't matter, so why bother? They're still going to build power stations, the people are still going to drive cars, they're still going to drill for oil, so you doing this challenge isn't going to make any difference. And to me, that line of thinking is just so bizarre. How can somebody look at some of these really, really just crucial issues in our world and go, what's the point of even trying? How can you, how? Genuinely explain it to me. I don't get it. How can you be like that? Because I'm not going to solve the climate crisis single-handedly by buying fewer clothes. Of course I'm not. But for me, it's about living in line with my beliefs. It's about taking a stand against the things that I see as injustices in the world. And I am a person with a platform, no matter how small. But I know that platform can be effective because people message me all the time to tell me that they bought the scissors I recommend and they've changed their life. Do you know what I mean? And it's so small. It's so small. I know, of course it is. But to me, it's worth doing. I'm genuinely sat here gobsmacked because I cannot even put into words an argument against that line of thinking because it is just so alien to me. Yes, I'm doing this tiny thing and it's largely to make myself feel good about myself. But if I feel less hopeless, if I feel involved in this struggle and a part of this community, then I will feel empowered to do other things in my life, and hopefully I can inspire other people to at least try as well. Dropping in from this terribly lit angle just to say I really struggled to articulate my feelings here, and so I went and looked for some people that had articulated it better, and there is this video from Lena Norms, who is a British YouTuber who talks a lot about sustainable fashion and about the climate crisis, and the video is called "Small Actions Mean Nothing. emoji. The video has more of a focus on eating meat, which is one of the things that I was a vegetarian for environmental reasons and I had to give up because of my health. And that decision has weighed heavily on me because of many of the reasons that she describes in her video. But the point that she continues to make is that small actions are not meant to be scalable. You know, whatever it is, going vegan, making your own clothes, buying secondhand, addressing your consumption, it's not meant to save the world. It isn't. It's meant to get people engaged in the struggle to save the world. It's about fighting apathy, which is obviously what I'm talking about in the main chunk of this video anyway, and also adjusting to the future realities of the climate crisis. Because who knows, there have been times in our history when governments have intervened to ration things as a result of the emergency, and this clothing rationing scheme is a perfect example of that. So as the climate crisis intensifies, yes, we are facing the very real possibility of food rationing, of petrol rationing, of clothing rationing, of all sorts of things. So you could argue, I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve here, but that's not really my motivation for doing it. My motivation for doing it is about knowing the reality of what it takes to make clothes, seeing the exploitation of others, of our environment, and saying, I don't want to be a part of that. It's as simple as that. Right, I'll get off my high horse. Let's talk about what I've actually managed to do or not do in the past 3 months. First of all, how many coupons have I spent? And I am pleased to say a big fat 0. In 3 months, I haven't spent any coupons. Nothing. That's not to say I haven't bought any clothes, I have, but they've all been second-hand clothes. So in World War II, second-hand items could require coupons if they were over a certain price, and they include this table to figure out what price they would be, but trying to equate that to modern life was incredibly difficult because of, firstly, price inflation and decimalisation. Getting my head around it was a bit weird, but I think I ended up sort of roughly deciding that for my purposes, I was only going to allocate coupons to second-hand clothing if it was costing more than a third of what it would have done new. So if it was a top that would have cost £30 new, if I was paying more than £10 for it, then I would need to pay coupons as well. Now, of course, one of the differences between modern life and the 1940s is that we are drowning in second-hand clothing. We cannot shift it fast enough. So, you know, there's an abundance of it and it's therefore very cheap. So all the second-hand clothing items I have bought, even when I haven't known the full price, have been so cheap, there is no way I would have had to pay a coupon allocation for them. So the things I have bought were both for a wedding I was invited to. So I wore a dress I already had, and this is very much the make-do side of the make-do and mend. And the make-do is actually a large part of it, much more than the mending and the rationing and the refashioning. Now, this dress I had bought to go to a different event several years ago, but the event was in November and this dress was a bit summery, so I'd hung on to it in thinking maybe I'll wear it again at some point, you know. And finally that occasion came around. But being a strapless dress and being a summer wedding in England, I knew I was going to need some sort of little jacket or cover up because it could potentially get cold. It could have potentially been raining. It's rained all summer, who am I kidding? Amazingly, it didn't rain, but I was very glad of this little cover up that I bought, and I bought it on Vinted. And I think I can tell you how much I paid. I paid £13.15 including postage and the Vinted buyer protection fee. So I paid £9 plus fees and postage. So there's no way that this new would have cost less than, what's 3 9s? £27. But interestingly, another thing that I needed for this wedding was a strapless bra. Now, I do own a strapless bra, but it didn't fit anymore. And so I was contemplating buying a new bra. Now, bras only have 1 coupon allocated to them, so I could have bought a new bra. But bras are expensive and I don't really have the funds for that, particularly for a strapless bra for a wedding that I'm probably only going to wear once. So I looked into buying a bra secondhand, and it's one of those, years ago I never would have contemplated that. I would have thought it was gross because it's underwear. But it's no worse than like buying secondhand jeans or anything else tight fitting. And because it's the sort of a strapless nude bra is the sort of thing that you buy for an occasion and wear with one particular kind of dress, and because they're so uncomfortable you never wear again. I was sure I could find one that was very lightly used, and I did, and I found it for £1. No, £1.50. I found it for £1.50 on Vinted. So not only did I save myself one coupon, I also saved myself probably about 40 quid. So I was very pleased with that. And so that was the first instance where I thought to myself, this is something I wouldn't have done had it not been for this challenge. I would not have bought a secondhand bra if it hadn't been to do with this Make Do Amend challenge. I have also added some clothes to my wardrobe in other ways. I haven't done any refashioning yet, but I have accepted quite a few hand-me-downs. And they're all from my mum. I'm very lucky, I have a very stylish mum, and she is very passionate about clothing and fashion, and she changes her wardrobe a lot. She buys a lot of secondhand clothes herself, and she donates a lot of her clothes. And as she was donating a few things, I rummaged through and found myself some new things. So also completely free and no coupons. And now I don't want to say that this challenge has been easy so far. It has involved some restraint. I have had to think, particularly for me, the impulse purchasing is the yarn and the fabric. But I've gotten a lot better at going, no, I don't need that. I need to use what I already have. And having these extra restrictions to do with the coupons has definitely helped. Going forward, I can see this getting trickier because I have lots of things that are wearing out, need a lot of mending, don't fit anymore or need altering. I need new shoes. The seasons are changing. I'm getting out all my winter clothing and discovering things don't fit anymore or are really too worn to go through another winter. So I need to really carefully plan what I'm going to buy or make going forward. Now, brassieres are only one coupon, but knickers are two. They call them non-woolen briefs, which I think is funny. And I think the reason that briefs, if you like, from this era are two coupons where a brassiere is only one is that undergarments of this time used a lot more fabric. I've made a couple of pairs of vintage knickers on this channel and they are massive compared to what we are used to. They are basically shorts. So this is one of the times where I'm like, oh God, maybe this should have been modernised for this challenge because I cannot believe I'm going to have to spend 2 coupons per pair of knickers. But I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make my own underwear. I've never made underwear before. It involves some techniques I haven't tried. I'd love to try and make a brassiere. Can't believe I'm calling it a brassiere. Who am I? Love to try and make some bras because I've got some supplies that I think I could use in stock already, and so that's a little bit of stash busting. I thankfully don't need a new winter coat. So that is a big chunk of savings made, but I do need a raincoat, and I've had the fabric to try and make myself a raincoat since about this time last year, and with my neck it hasn't happened. So I think that is also one of the projects I want to prioritize in terms of sewing. So going forward, it looks like I am making undergarments and outer garments, and everything else we'll just have to do for now. So I'm going to dig out a couple of patterns and some fabric and see what I've got that I can make going forward. I also think I want to really take stock of my wardrobe, and particularly my winter wardrobe, and see what gaps I have so I can plan any purchases I want to make. I'm still holding off on buying new clothes wherever possible, but it is nice to know that as a part of this system, I do have that as an option. So we'll see how well making my own knickers goes, and if I need to splash out on some new underwear, I think I will. Thanks for watching. See you next time.